Khalil Rountree will finesse his way past Jiri Prochazka.
UFC 320, October 4th, Jiri Prochazka versus Khalil Rountree.
When I think about the story that I want to leave behind, I want people to know, you want to do something, you can do it. Anytime you watch one of my fights, chances are there's going to be a knockout, multiple knockdowns, or something exciting.
Khalil is just terrifying.
Fighting is in your DNA.
He is, without doubt, one of the most dangerous strikers on planet Earth. And he knocks people into other dimensions.
He really is just like a samurai warrior.
I think he's one of the most exciting fighters in the sport.
This is what it's about. Let's see who's the best fighter in the world.
It doesn't really matter. I'm going to win this fight by knockout.
Jiri vs Khalil are set for the main card of UFC 320, and although a lot of fans are expecting Jiri to find a first round knockout, I'm here to tell you that not only will Khalil Rountree get past Jiri Prochazka, but he'll finish him as well. But quickly, before we get the video started, my name is JuicyMMA, I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, as only 10% of you watching are actually subscribed. Also, if you guys are enjoying the content and want to support the channel, be sure to hit that join button for members only live streams, videos, alongside with other perks as well. But anyways, let's get into it. When you look at the career of Khalil Rountree, it's definitely a very interesting one. As earlier on in Khalil's career, he was never perceived to be a legitimate contender at the light heavyweight division. But after Khalil went on a 5-fight win streak against some pretty mediocre names, he was then awarded a title shot in 2024 against Alex Pereira. And although the result was Alex Pereira found a late round finish, at the end of the day, the fact that Khalil Rountree performed as well as he did and even hurt Alex Pereira early on in that fight really changed the public sentiment around Khalil Rountree. At that point, fans saw him as a legitimate contender at the light heavyweight division and a guy who could potentially get the belt in the future. Then, after the Pereira fight, Khalil proves his fans correct, as in his next performance against Jamal Hill, he put on an absolute masterclass, dominating Jamal Hill in every single round of that fight. And although he wasn't able to find the finish, he was able to drop Jamal Hill a bunch of times, and it was a very clear decision victory for Khalil Rountree. And after that tremendous performance over Jamal Hill, he's now in a #1 contender fight against Jiri Prochazka. But a question that some of you may be wondering at this point is, what specifically does Khalil Rountree do out there that makes him so successful? Well, in my opinion, it comes down to a couple different factors, but the first factor I want to touch upon is his speed. Because when you talk about Khalil Rountree at the light heavyweight division, he's actually a lot smaller than most light heavyweights. And although that could be a disadvantage in some aspects, at the same time, it's actually a pretty big advantage for him, as he's able to utilize his speed factor against a lot of these other light heavyweights. And we saw it in the Alex Pereira fight, we saw it in the Jamal Hill fight, we saw it in a lot of his other performances. But basically what Khalil Rountree is able to do out there is he's able to throw shots and essentially double the speed of all of his opponents. And essentially what that does is it surprises a lot of his opponents, and that's how he's able to find a lot of his finishes, or at the very least, that's how he's able to hurt a lot of his opponents. When you look specifically at that Alex Pereira fight, it was very apparent that the speed factor was giving a lot of problems to Alex, as early on he just couldn't figure it out. Every time he would throw a shot, Khalil Rountree would utilize his speed to land a beautiful counter shot. And even on the knockdown that Khalil Rountree was able to find, he was able to do that because in part of his speed factor. He surprised Alex Pereira in there. Now obviously as the fight progressed, Alex adjusted and he found the finish, but at the end of the day, I think in that fight, alongside with a lot of his other performances, it's very apparent that Khalil Rountree's speed is a very big factor and a very big reason for why he's been so successful thus far. But the next factor for why I think Khalil Rountree has been so successful thus far is due to his striking acumen. Because when you look at Khalil Rountree's striking game, it's a little bit interesting, because in some aspects he's a very technical striker. The way he throws his uppercut, the way he throws his jab, left straight, leg kicks specifically, body kicks, head kicks, all those things that he does at a very high level and very technically. But when you look at other aspects of Khalil Rountree's game, like his standing elbows, like his overhand left, they're not very technical. But I think that actually helps Khalil Rountree out in a certain way. I think because he could be wild in some aspects of his striking game, it really helps to throw off a lot of his opponents. And basically on the feet, what Khalil Rountree does out there is he looks to stay very patient until he finds his openings, and then he's able to explode. Whether it's into a standing elbow, whether it's into a big overhand left, whether it's a leg kick, whether it's a jab left hand, there's a lot of different things that Khalil Rountree can do out there on the feet, and because of that, he's able to surprise his opponents and find finishes on the feet and just have a lot of success overall. But the next factor for why I think Khalil Rountree has been so successful thus far is due to his fight IQ. Because I think Khalil's fight IQ significantly improved after his performance against Alex Pereira. As when you look at his fight against Jamal Hill, he was able to systematically break down Jamal. As early on, he knew that Jamal Hill had a ton of power. So early on, essentially what Khalil Rountree was able to do was he utilized a lot of leg kicks. And by landing his leg kicks, he was accomplishing two separate things. For one, and most importantly, he was finding his range. But also for two, he was doing a really good job at zapping away some of the power from Jamal Hill. When you're able to hurt your opponent's legs significantly, you're able to take a lot of the power away from them as well. And as I said, when you talk about Jamal Hill, he's very powerful. So utilizing the leg kicks early on for Khalil was definitely an amazing weapon. And as the fight did progress, we saw Khalil just get more and more comfortable, start to land more shots with his hands. He dropped Jamal Hill a bunch of times in that fight. And by the end of the fight, it was very clear that Khalil Rountree was able to systematically break down Jamal Hill. So I do think even before, but especially after the Alex Pereira fight, Khalil Rountree's fight IQ has gotten significantly higher. And I do think that could be a factor going into this fight versus Jiri Prochazka. But another question that some of you may be wondering at this point is why specifically do I think Khalil Rountree is going to finesse his way past Jiri Prochazka? Well, in my opinion, it comes down to a couple different factors, but the first factor I want to touch upon is the speed. Because as I touched upon before, when you talk about Khalil Rountree, he's probably the fastest guy at the light heavyweight division. And when you look at Jiri Prochazka, although he's not slow, it's definitely going to be a significant speed advantage for Khalil Rountree. And going into this fight, I initially thought whoever landed the first shot is probably going to be able to find the victory. The first clean shot, that is. And because Jiri Prochazka is so aggressive, and because also Khalil Rountree is so fast, I do think he'll be able to find some beautiful counter shots on Jiri Prochazka utilizing that speed. And if Khalil's able to land a clean shot while Jiri Prochazka is coming in and trying to land a big shot of his own, that's really when you talk about big time finishes. And I do think that speed advantage is going to be a huge factor in this fight for Khalil Rountree. But the next factor for why I think Khalil is going to be able to finesse his way past Jiri Prochazka is due to his fight IQ. Because when you talk about Jiri Prochazka, he's an amazing fighter. He's very powerful, he's very aggressive, and he's able to essentially overwhelm a lot of his opponents and finish them. But when you talk about Khalil Rountree, he has tremendous fight IQ, and I think he's essentially going to be able to utilize a lot of that Jiri Prochazka aggression against him by finding counters but also staying safe early. As a lot of times when guys go up against Jiri Prochazka, they kind of fall into his aggression game, throw shots back at him, and that's how they get finished. But for Khalil Rountree, I don't think he's going to fight like that. Early on, I think he's going to stay very safe and wait for his opportunities, but when those opportunities do present themselves, I think Khalil Rountree is then going to take those opportunities and land big counter shots of his own. And at that point, that's really where he'll be able to find his finishes. So overall, I do think the fight IQ of Khalil Rountree is also going to be a big factor in this fight. But the next and last reason for why I think Khalil Rountree is going to finesse his way past Jiri Prochazka is due to his leg kicks. Because when you look at all of Khalil Rountree's fights, he's shown really good leg kicks in all of his fights. But in particular, his last performance against Jamal Hill, as I talked about before, he systematically broke down Jamal Hill in part because of his leg kicks. And when you talk about Jiri Prochazka, very similarly to Jamal Hill, he struggles with guys that can effectively leg kick. When you look at Jiri's performances against both Alex Pereira alongside with Rakic, both Alex and Rakic were able to do a really good job at landing a bunch of leg kicks, and it really affected Jiri Prochazka. So going into this fight, I do think leg kicks are going to be a huge part of the game of Khalil Rountree. I think early on, we're going to see Khalil Rountree be very patient out there, but also at the same time land a lot of leg kicks in order to A, find his range, but also in order to B, zap away some of the movement and power away from Jiri Prochazka. But as the fight does progress, I think we're going to start to see Khalil Rountree get more and more confident, land some big shots of his own, and at the end of the day, I do think we're going to be talking about a Khalil Rountree victory, a finish victory, in part based off of his leg kicks. So if I had to give an official prediction for this matchup, I would be leaning towards around 3 TKO victory for Khalil Rountree. Rountree. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Khalil Rountree can finesse his way past Jiri Prochazka, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.